fucking dream so big that they'll haunt you or they'll calm you. That's how you know if you gotta go and get to win and not conquer. I had to go out and get it without a sponsor. Kept it real, never crooked, yeah, that's honor. Now I can go out and get it how I want to. Hashtag blessed, I choose.
What is up, Rumble, YouTube, and Twitter? Welcome back to the Ryan Matta Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Monday, April 22nd. It is 10:05 a.m., and we are going to get all things started. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about Ponzi schemes. We're going to talk about people setting themselves on fire and calling all crypto a Ponzi scheme, telling us that Peter Thiel is getting ready to create the next financial crisis with cryptocurrency. Is that what's going to happen? We got our special guest, RAJAT SONI, coming back to join us over here. Welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Man, so a lot of crazy stuff happening over the last, I guess, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. We got people setting themselves out in fire out in front of in the courthouse, in front of Trump's trial. Why don't you catch us up on the speed of how things are going with you, and then we'll kind of dive into all the crazy stuff.
I actually recently started posting a lot more on YouTube, because I feel like it's a great way to get people's attention, give them a deep dive. I mean, that's one thing that I've been doing. I just want to keep educating people as much as I can about Bitcoin, crypto. What happened what happened a few days ago was definitely a weird situation. It was sad. Just, I guess there's so many videos on YouTube now that just explaining what happened, and I feel like a lot of them are wrong. So yeah, that's been confusing me a bit.
Man, I couldn't agree. I want to give you a big shout out too. I want to let everybody know that down below in the description are links to all of your classes. You got what, like Bitcoin digital courses, you got coaching sessions, you got a mini course over here. They can book a direct coaching session one-on-one with you as well. And then all of your YouTube channels, all those links are down below as well as your Twitter as well. So I want to suggest everybody swing over there and give you a follow and support your work, man. You're doing a great job out there. So give me a rundown on what you saw what happened with this. There's so many videos out there. What exactly went down, and fill us in.
There was one thing that I really focused on, I guess the crypto is a Ponzi scheme part of it. When we spoke just a few minutes before this, we were talking about how he didn't mention Bitcoin directly, but I mean, in my opinion, I think most of the people who are focusing on something like this associate Bitcoin with crypto, right? They think Bitcoin is cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin's different, right? Every other cryptocurrency very likely is a Ponzi scheme, with the creators dumping coins on the public. When the public disappears, their coin goes to zero. I wouldn't say that for Bitcoin though. Maybe Ethereum. I think Ethereum has a big enough network effect, a big enough community to be worth something. But again, I don't know for sure about Ethereum. I haven't done a deep dive, but I know for a fact that he was not talking about Bitcoin, right? That Bitcoin is not a Ponzi scheme. I think most people don't understand what a Ponzi scheme is in the first place. And on top of that, they don't understand what Bitcoin is. I actually put up a question on Twitter where people would be, so I said, if Bitcoin doesn't have any debts, so Bitcoin, the network, there are no debts, right? There's nobody owed. There's nobody that you're promising returns to on the actual network itself. How is it a Ponzi scheme? And people were responding. They were saying, oh, it's because it's volatile. It's because you have to sell your coins. That's not what a Ponzi scheme is. I think that's one of the problems. And the sad thing would be if this person burned themselves and they didn't understand what Bitcoin and Ponzi schemes are, then that's I don't know if he passed away, but that's a life lost because of because of a lack of education, I'd say. Right?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And I think I wonder if he got himself wrecked. Like, you really bought into, the decentralization of all these basically proof of stake chains. And I don't think people really realize what a Ponzi scheme. They are literally, they've built blockchains that, if they did what they said they could do in an absolute perfect world with the coding languages that they are built in, they can never scale to meet the demands of global world adoption. So if best case, their blockchain was perfectly coded, every like little detail was perfected, and they could somehow even attempt to do what they're supposed to do, they couldn't meet the demands of global world adoption. So you got this chain that just eventually gets congested and bottles up and is, you know, extremely expensive. Some of them work now because the transaction fees are so low, but the second that those transaction fees are low, that chain has nothing to offer. And the second that you were to hit global adoption, or even 1% of mass adoption, the chain breaks. Like, just look at Solana; it breaks every other week. As soon as they get above like 3,500 transactions per second, they're supposed to be doing 65,000. Yeah, well, it's 65,000 in a perfect world. Like if every transaction was just one little like megabit, right? Like the smallest individual transaction, no NFTs, no metadata, no nothing baked into that transaction, just the absolute perfect smallest transaction humanly possible. And every block was perfectly stacked to the absolute brink of max capacity. And they produced a block exactly on time every single time interval. Then yeah, the chain would do 6,500 transactions per second. But you throw NFTs and a few other things, and the chain gets bottlenecked, and the proof of history on how they're trying to like pre-timestamp transactions before they go to the mempool. It's a shit show. It can never scale. So every crypto out there is a complete Ponzi scheme outside of a very, very few. So I wonder if this guy just, like, I remember that happened to me when like Sam Bankman-Fried got an FTX broke down. Like, I didn't have a mental break because I wasn't into all the shit coins, but I didn't understand that like these people that own the shit coins own the exchanges. They own the borrowing and lending protocols. They own the analytic companies that are writing analytic reports. Like, there are these companies that are collecting all this data on every blockchain, and then they're giving that data to the government to make anti-crypto regulations. And then they also own the banks, and then they own the borrowing and lending protocols, and then they own the crypto hedge funds, and then they own the media outlets. Like, Digital Currency Group owns CoinDesk. CoinDesk is the largest crypto media outlet. And they're the ones who report on all the corrupt shit that Digital Currency Group gets away with. And it blows my mind. It's like this whole system is rigged outside of Bitcoin. And then you have this beautiful thing that Bitcoin that, like you said, no issuer, no overhead, no liability, no unlimited supply. Never is going to change. It's going to stay the exact same for all of eternity. And the rules of the game are already predefined. What is it that people that why do you think so many people buy into these other altcoins?
I think part of it is unit bias. As in when people see $70,000 for a Bitcoin, they say, "Oh, I can never have one." But I think they don't realize that you don't need to have a whole Bitcoin, right? It's not needed. It's not necessary. You can have a very small amount, and you could potentially do very, very well, right? But this is a long-term thing, right? It's not something that'll happen over the short term. I think one of the problems with cryptocurrencies is that they overpromise and underdeliver, while Bitcoin underpromises and overdelivers over the long term, right? So, for example, think about how many people were saying that, and keep in mind that these are shitcoiners, right? These are people who are talking about Caspa. What else is there? There's so many coins that people are talking about, and they keep saying the random stuff, right? So there's one group of people that says Bitcoin is too expensive, so nobody's going to use it. And then there's another group of people that says Bitcoin is too cheap and the security is going to run out, or the security budget's not going to be enough. So there's people on both sides, but I think what Bitcoin does is because of the fact that it takes into account all market, just everything that's happening in the market, it's based on market factors. It can over deliver over time, under promise, over deliver, right? So with all these other cryptocurrencies, they can't do what they promise, and they will keep promising more and more because there's a group of people that benefits from them, right? There's a group of people that benefits from more people buying it. Again, that's how a Ponzi scheme works. Also, with other coins, for example, I think the promise of returns for other coins is that they'll outperform Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin doesn't have any promises of return, right? There's no, nobody's telling you, hey, this is going to go to $10 million next month. It's based on math. It's based on adoption. It's based on it's based on a number of things. But the main thing is that nobody promises that there's going to be returns. We all understand that if you're holding Bitcoin, you have to hold for at least 5, 10, 15 years before you really see the benefits, right? With cryptocurrencies, most people who buy cryptocurrencies just want to get rich overnight, right? If you think about it, I've spoken to a lot of people, and they own 12 million, 15 million, 2 billion of this random coin, which they expect to go to 1 cent by next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Ponzi scheme, right? And they tell people, yeah, this is going up, this is going to a cent. I have no idea where Bitcoin is going to be tomorrow, right? I can tell you that openly. I can tell you that I don't know where it's going to be next year. I don't know where it's going to be at the cycle peak. For all we know, this cycle could stop at maybe this cycle already peaked at 73,000. I don't think that's the case. I mean, that's very, very unlikely. But for all we know, that could be it, right? What if retail doesn't get in this cycle, right? So I think with cryptocurrencies, people give you very specific numbers. With Bitcoin, we're willing to admit we have no idea what's going to happen in the future. We know the number is going to eventually go up because of supply and demand. But again, supply and demand could be something that we don't expect. It doesn't go the way that we think. But again, most people don't understand that. Most people can't differentiate between Bitcoin and crypto. Very different topics, very different asset. One can actually do something for you, and the other one very, very, very likely won't.
You had mentioned a few key things there. I want to dive into a little bit. You said it'll take most people 5 to 10 years. Like when you start saving in Bitcoin, and I think that's how most people should kind of frame it. Is it's like a 401k. It's a savings account. Like you don't put money into your 401k and like, yep, I'm walking out of work next week, bro. No, you're like, all right, I'm going to put into this 401k for like 10 or 20 years, and at the end, I should have financial freedom. That was the pipe dream of 401ks back in the day when Warren Buffett was really driving those home, and now everybody realizes that. Like I just read an article last week that said Gen Z is starting to save 15 years ahead of the boomer generation, and they're going to work till they die, basically, right? Like even if you put money into your 401k, it doesn't matter how early you start at 18 now, it won't be enough for you to retire at the rate of inflation. The markets are never going to outpace that rate. So if you were to say like, okay, I don't know how you do it, but you're much better with math and numbers than I am, so maybe you can figure this one out. Like let's say you make $40,000 a year. I don't even know if you can live off 40,000. So I guess I would say, what is the minimum amount you'd have to make in your country to put some type of capital into savings? But I'm trying to figure out what would be the amount of Bitcoin. Like if you really took your worst estimate on where you think Bitcoin's going to go every year, is it 48%, 50%? What amount of money would the average person need to save to really get out of the rat race in 5 years? Have you ever thought that through, like long term? Like, if I'm only make 50,000 and I can only put say 5,000 a year away, it's probably not going to change the game. But what if I'm able to go get a second job and put, like, what would you tell people if they wanted to do it in 5 years? How much Bitcoin do you think they need to acquire between now and like the next?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a calculation on this. I was working on a newsletter, and I thought that, okay, I have a spreadsheet open and everything. I was working on a newsletter, so I have this data here. But essentially, if I don't know if I should share it, but
yeah, can you? Let me see
share
if I can. You should be able to hit the share button, and I think I should be able to give you a full screen.
Oh, there you go. Share screen, disable camera. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen.
1 second. Okay. Yes, sir. There you go. Sweet.
You can see it? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is based on 20 years. Right? This isn't based on 1 year. This is based on 20 years. So if you have, okay, so this starts with a $100 portfolio. If you have $1 allocated to Bitcoin, and then you have a certain amount allocated to stocks, in this case, it's 1% to Bitcoin, 99% to stocks. It actually goes all the way down. So you start with a $100 portfolio. Part of it goes to Bitcoin. The other rest of it goes to the stock. So let's go all the way down. So we have $100 to Bitcoin, 0% to stocks, 0% allocation to Bitcoin. At the end of it, your portfolio will be worth $70,000. This is based on, so I'll actually type this in. So 20-year time horizon. 35% returns for Bitcoin for 10 years. And then 30% for the following 10. And then with stocks, you have a 7% return after inflation, which I don't think is even high enough. I think that's I think inflation is going to outpace that. These returns are after inflation, right? Because Bitcoin, the way that Bitcoin works, you have adoption, which pushes price up, and you have inflation, which pushes price up. So these are after inflation returns, and I think over the next 10, 20 years, 30% on average is not bad, including all the drops, including all the peaks. On average, we'll probably see something like based on this number, I think Bitcoin in 20 years, Bitcoin would be like $40 million, which I think is reasonable because there's no limit to how many dollars governments can print, right? So besides the fact, 7% returns for stocks. But I think the point here is that when you start with stocks only, if you have only stocks, you'll end up with something like you'll go from $100 to like $370 or so, right? If you have even 1% allocation to Bitcoin, over 20 years, your portfolio would triple, right? If you have, right, like that's crazy over 20 years. Like if you look at this number, if you have 1% allocation to Bitcoin, 99% allocation to stocks, your Bitcoin will be worth $600 in 20 years, from $1 to $600. And then you can just multiply it, right?
Yeah.
It's insane. So if you think about it, let's say somebody, instead of putting $100, they put in $1,000. It'll be $609,000. If they put $10,000, it'll be like $6 million over 30 years, over 20 years. Though I'm not saying that this is guaranteed. It could be different from what I'm saying, but I think my numbers here are pretty conservative. If you understand how Bitcoin works, I think they're very conservative, right? So for 20 years, 35% returns, you'd have, if you put $100,000 into Bitcoin, you'd have something like $60 million, right? So, I mean, it's up to, again, the goal isn't just retiring. The goal is having money set aside so you have options, right? I mean, that's how I always think. I'm sure you think the same way. If your goal is to, if you have a financial goal, your goal should probably be to free yourself, right? That's the main thing to me. I think that's the most important thing to me. If you can free yourself from the rat race, I think Bitcoin will be the main contributor to that. I don't think stocks are enough anymore.
Yep. You want to throw yourself back on cam?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yep.
1 second. Stop screen share. Can you see me?
I can't yet. It looks like maybe you have to toggle it one more time. I just got a black screen right now, so
yeah, it's a black screen on my end too. That's weird.
You might want to leave and come back real quick.
Yeah, let me do that.
All right, sounds good. We'll be right back, folks. Hold that thought. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. Make sure you guys swing down there again and follow over on X. It goes by, if you guys are just listening, it's at RAJATSONIFNANCE over on X. Welcome back, my friend. Welcome back.
Hey, back. Awesome.
Man, that was a great breakdown. That's really interesting. And I was so funny.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you thought about that and thought that through. I thought that was going to be a good question. And there you had it right there. Already broke down for us.
Yeah, the funny thing is I actually had the spreadsheet open too. So,
so what do you think? So how much do you think that they should be, like, if that's the breakdown, how much do you think that they have to acquire? Is it 10,000 you think right now in 20 years guaranteed retirement? Or what is the quantity of Bitcoin you think somebody would need to, like, and I mean to like be able to like just done, like I don't have to worry about the like paying taxes or any of that shit, like enough to just escape the matrix, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Like you mean paying your taxes, like just taking care of it, not having to have that liability in the future, right? That's what you mean?
No, I mean like having enough money in Bitcoin to matter, like you're not going to have to worry about paying your property taxes because you just got enough stacked aside. You can just pay off all your debt or whatever you have, you know?
Right. I would say, I think over the next 10 years, we're going to see a really, really huge run. I don't know how high it'll go. It's because I'm sure your audience knows who Michael Saylor is. It's because of the fact that most of the supply is already out there, right? Most people already own it. When Bitcoin is in existence, when Bitcoin is in circulation, somebody owns it, right? So if you want their Bitcoin, you have to offer them money for it. They're not going to just give it to you. The reason why Bitcoin's at 60, what's the price around? 66,000? Yeah, something like that. It's because there's no sellers at 64,000. There's no sellers at 62,000. There's no sellers at 10,000, right? Over time, that base for sellers is going to keep going up, right? As people understand what this is, as people figure it out, the base will keep going up, right? That's how prices are determined, right? You have to go based on what's available on the market. If there's nothing available on the market, then the price will always go up, right? So, oh, nice.
This is how many are
So
left
if
on
you,
exchange, right? Only
oh yeah, there you go. So
1.729
1.7.
million. It's at the lowest it's ever. I think. I mean, well, within a few thousand, but it's close to the lowest that it's ever been. And for almost the last week, every single day has been negative. The peak I
Yeah.
saw was like 78,000 or 79,000 in 30 days. So that's a lot of Bitcoin leaving exchanges.
Yeah, this is the lowest number I've seen as well. But you also have to keep in mind that a lot of these coins aren't being sold, right? They're just there because people are using the exchange as a wallet,
Yeah,
right? And
true that. True that. True that.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if we have like 300, 400,000 coins in total that are on exchanges available to be bought, right? Because a lot of people, I've spoken to more than enough people who have 1, 2, 5 Bitcoin on an exchange and they don't plan to sell, right? But
Hmm.
it's just the education piece. I think that's the main thing. Over time, if you really want to just set yourself up, just I honestly, nobody knows where the price is going. Just based on very, very conservative estimates, I think the best thing you can do is just consistently buy, right? Just
Hmm.
buy 5, 10, 15, whatever you have. It doesn't matter what you have. Just buy a bit, right? Buy $10, $20. Try to get to a million Satoshis. That's 0.01 Bitcoin. Try to get to 0.1. If you can get there, try to get to 0.25. If you can get there, 0.5. If you can get
Yeah.
there, 1, right? It's just the more you have, the earlier you're able to retire, right? So let's
Yeah.
say when Bitcoin is at $39 million, well, based on the calculations that I had, you're not going to be waiting for it to hit $39 million before you retire, right? You can probably retire when it hits $10 million, when it hits $5 million, right? Because the point here is
Yeah.
that you can sell bits of your Bitcoin and you can sustain your lifestyle. I think that's something that a lot of people are going to benefit from a lot over the next 20, 30, 40 years. Because the point is that when you have that freedom, and Bitcoin provides that to you. Bitcoin is the only, in my opinion, the only asset that'll give that to you. All these other assets, like stocks, for example, you can't freely sell them. Real estate, you can own it, but it can be bombed, right? You
Hmm.
can be killed to take your land. On
Yep.
the other hand, if somebody hurts you for your Bitcoin's gone, right? So I think this is gonna give people a brand new level of freedom that they haven't even imagined. And just based on everything you say, I mean, that's what we want, right? We don't want to be relying on anybody. We don't want to be relying on anybody, no matter how good or bad of an actor they are. We don't want to rely on them to pay for our lifestyles, right? To pay for our children, our families, our parents' healthcare, uh, our children's whatever entertainment, like sports, for example. We want to do that. We want to be able to do that ourselves. I think everybody who's watching this right now wants to do that on their own. They don't want to rely on somebody else to do it for them. So I think Bitcoin gives you that. Bitcoin gives you that freedom. Just keep buying, right? That's the thing. Just
Yeah.
keep buying. That's the secret. Over time, you want to have more Bitcoin than you had, let's say last week, last month, last year, right? That's
Mhm.
it, right? Eventually you'll have to sell some. That's perfectly fine, right? Don't think of it as um, uh, I'm I'm going to borrow against my Bitcoin, for example, right? Borrowing against your Bitcoin is a little bit risky, at least right now. For all we know, I can't guarantee that there's not going to be a 90% drop, right?
Mhm.
So if you borrow against 15% of your stack, if you have your entire stack collateralized and you borrow 15% against it, so let's say you have one Bitcoin, you borrow 0.15, you could be wiped out, right? If Bitcoin drops 90%, you're gone, you're done. So
Oh yeah.
don't take that risk for now, I think. I think at this point, increase cash flow, accumulate Bitcoin. It's not a medium of exchange yet. It's not a unit of account. Use it. Use this time when nobody even knows that it exists to
Mhm.
accumulate, right? That's all you can do. 10, 15, 20 years from now, I think you're going to be good.
Can you talk a little bit about private property rights and what that means as like civilization and citizens?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is something that a lot of people need to understand. Property rights are something that you want because the things that you buy, the things that you build, you work your entire life to let's say save something, right? You work your entire life to save in, let's say you have a bank account, you're saving in dollars. You work your entire life to put that money away. Eventually, that bank account will be the you'll have to use the money in that bank account, right? while you see the same number over time, the value of it is being stolen, right? So in my opinion, inflation is a property right violation, right? Because people's money is being taken without them knowing, right? You're working for this thing your entire life. You're saving, let's say, $10,000 a year. That's a lot of money for a lot of people, right? You save $10,000 a year for 30 years, you have $300,000. In the next 30 years, what's that $300,000 going to be worth? Is it going to cover 1 year, 2 years of expenses? It's not going to cover much, right? But over time, you know for a fact that that value is going to drop. So I think Bitcoin gives you the best property rights because no matter who it is, I think within the legacy system there's definitely some discrimination between who gets property rights and who doesn't. For example, in the legacy financial system, it's very difficult for poor people to have property rights because they can only save in dollars, right? And those dollars, like I mentioned, those dollars don't give you property rights, right? They're stolen from you. On the other hand, with Bitcoin, anybody can have property rights. Anybody in the world. Like I have somebody who I talk to somebody in Nigeria regularly, and he was saying how there are so many people who are saying that the fees are high, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He's in Nigeria. He lives there. He was born there. He's not a very rich person, but he's okay with it. He's okay with the fees because he knows that the Nigerian naira is losing 80, 90%, or something like 30, 40% per year, 80, 90% every few years. So to him, if he has to pay a fee to secure his property rights, why would he care? It's mostly people who are trying to push shitcoins who are telling you that fees are too high, right? Why are fees so high? Ordinals, or people are minting ordinals, runes, whatever it is. I'm not a complete expert on it, but at the end of the day, it's a shitcoin on Bitcoin, right? Shitcoins are the problem. I think over time, Bitcoin will give us those property rights that we need to be able to protect what we build and to be able to keep it for the long term. I think everything else is working against that. Everything else is working to make it more difficult to have property rights, to make it more difficult to protect what you've worked for already, right?
Man, that's pretty deep. I guess I never really thought about that. Like, I've heard people say it before, like Bitcoin is giving property rights to 8 billion people. And I guess I never really comprehended like what a powerful tool this is for people that live in poverty areas, especially for like the lower poor incomes, whether you're white, black, Hispanic. You have a tool that literally, even if you're only able to save $10 a month, like looking at that graph that you showed, like even if you just have 1% allocation to Bitcoin, how you're gonna, what was it? Like you're gonna 3x or 10x your portfolio? What was the math on that?
Yeah, so if you have a 1% allocation, you'll have a 3x on your portfolio.
3x. That's
If you have a 100% allocation, you'll have 150x on your portfolio, right? Over 20 years.
I just that is like you have to figure out a way to make that type of gains. And a lot of people do that with a business, right? They come from these really bad neighborhoods and they end up starting a business, or they get an NBA contract, or they get some leg up that gets them out of that rat race, right? But Bitcoin literally gives that opportunity to everybody. And this is what bugs me so bad about like Cardi B and some of these rappers that talk about their wet ass vaginas and like all this just horrible things when they could be inspiring an entire generation to adopt Bitcoin. And like, I think that we're this close before some of these celebrities say like, enough is enough. I've had it. Like, I don't care about my sponsors. I've made millions and millions of dollars, basically F you. And they're going to go hard into educating their community about what Bitcoin is and what it means, because this could change the dynamic for so many people, man. It's such an opportunity. How long do you think it is before we start to see that? Like more people really realizing that?
It's going to change the world, right? It's going to change everything. I think everything is going to change. Did you know that Drake posted on his story?
Drake?
Yeah, Drake posted about Bitcoin in his story. It was it was actually right at the very top. I think it was around 73,000, but I think that's not going to be the top. I think this cycle is going to go a lot higher. So he's going to seem like one of those people that, oh, this guy knew what he was talking about, right? And over time, there are going to be more people who do that. I think Drake actually posted something about, I don't like that he talks about gambling all the time. He talks about stake all the time, whatever his site is. But he posted about Bitcoin. I think it was in the last bull run. He posted his ledger, his diamond encrusted ledger on Instagram. I think that's gonna I think that's gonna happen. It has to happen, right? At the only issue with that is that I don't know if most people care. Most people don't understand that their money is being taken from them, right? People have, like, when I used to work at a bank a few years ago, people would have $1 million in their bank account, right? Like older people, they'd have $1 million in their bank account because they just sold their house and they're like, okay, I'm going to use this money to for retirement, right?
Yeah. Oh, shit.
And they'd keep it in their bank account. They'd keep it in a checking or just a minor savings. Because think about it, savings accounts, how manipulative is that? You're told, okay, you're saving in this, so your money's going to stay the same over time. You're getting a little interest rate. The bank tells you, oh, you're going to get interest for saving in here. But what are you getting? 1%? What's inflation? 5, 6, 10, 15% sometimes, right? So
Yeah.
it's scary to me to even think about, because most people have no idea what the problem is. So how would they know? How would they care? Why would they care about the solution, right? If a rapper comes out and starts, if they make an album about Bitcoin, it's not going to hit anybody because most people have no clue what's happening, right? And that's just, I feel like it's just the way that our system is built. It's built to keep people ignorant of these kinds of things, because if you think about it, that guy who burned himself, he also mentioned that Silicon Valley Bank was a Ponzi scheme, right? That part I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Every bank is a Ponzi scheme. If people
Yes.
start withdrawing their money, what's going to happen to these banks?
House of cards,
These banks
baby.
are going to all collapse, right? Exactly.
Cards.
If there's a bad gust of wind, this house of cards is going to fall. And I think that house of wind, that bad gust of wind, is Bitcoin.
Wow. Very well said. You're right. It is. It's going to suck the life out of every single one of these institutions because it's pure. Like anytime I was using the analogy, I forget who said it, I forget what movie it is, but he talks about the light versus the dark. And he's like, man, how do you keep going? And every day it's just so dark out there. And he goes, well, the funny part is and he goes, in the dark, it just looks like the dark's winning. And his response was basically like, at one point it was always dark. It was all dark, pitch black. And now there's a little bit of light. So there might only be a little bit of light, but in my opinion, the light's gaining ground on the dark, right? And I feel like Bitcoin is that light. I was talking to Eric V. Stacks about it yesterday. And he's like, the politics is just always so negative. He's like, you kind of start your day off. If you started off with politics, you basically like manifest this negativity around you. Like they put you in this negative state of mind. So like you go through your whole day. If you watch the news in the morning, it's just a negative mindset because you've already put that mindset into your head. And he goes, and I just look at Bitcoin as it fixes all this. It's exposing all of this. Like I'm looking at this corruption and like the acceleration of it, and like, dude, like Bitcoin's winning, right? Like Bitcoin is exposing all of this clown world. Like look at the whole world. Like 3 years ago, nobody knew the clown world. Even us as Bitcoiners, we knew like there was a clown world in the central bankers, but we didn't know how deep the deep state really went and how deep that rabbit hole went. And now we're looking at going, wow, like there's a lot of people awake right now. A lot of people are looking at Bitcoin for the first time and they're going, I don't know. I still don't know. I had this preconceived misconception about it, but like, what is your option, bro? Like the Titanic has hit the iceberg, it's going down, and you're on it right now. And there's all these beautiful lifeboats, and that's called Bitcoin. And you can get on it at any time you want, whenever you're ready, for at whatever price you deserve, right? You can get on them.
Yeah.
But there's going to come a point where, you'll get on them, but you're going to be the dude that's crawling out of the ocean, soaking wet, freezing with icicles coming down from his nose, when you could have just gotten the lifeboat in the first place, because Bitcoin's always going to be there, but the opportunity to make those like guaranteed life-changing gains, I think, will come quick. They always do, and most people buy the top and then they get pissed off and they ride it through a bear market and then they need money. So they sell it. And then it does a 10X or 20X after, like right now. How many people do you think sold at like 20 or 30 now and like are like, fuck?
Oh, probably a lot. There's definitely people who think, oh yeah, it doubled. We're going to go to zero now. It's a bear market rally, right? I think one of the problems here is that, like for myself, for example, my wife was telling me yesterday, I'm a little too passionate, and it comes off as I'm trying to sell something to someone, right? I'm trying to scam someone. So I think my rationale there is pretty reasonable. the reason why I do that, why I post like crazy, right? I post like 10, 15 times a day on Twitter because I know for a
Yeah, I love
fact
it,
like
man.
some of those posts are automated, some of those posts are just going through. But the reason why I post so much is because every person, even yourself, man, like you have a massive audience, right? Every person we touch, every person that we get to look at this
Mhm.
is a person who can accumulate Bitcoin that the central banks and the governments can't have, the
Yep.
financial institutions can't have, right? So that's every single person. I've I've probably so I've spoken to friends, family, I've spoken to random people who I don't even know. I have no clue who they are, right? And a lot of people think, okay, Bitcoiners are grifters, right? Not really, because if I didn't tell these people and there weren't 100,000 coins or however much Bitcoin bought because of my posts, how low would the price be right now?
Yeah.
How low would the price be if every single Bitcoiner stopped posting, right? Because they could just accumulate everything. They
Yeah.
could, if they stopped telling people. I know enough Bitcoiners who have given away Bitcoin for free. I
That's good,
know
man.
Andreas Antonopoulos. He's given away thousands of coins,
Yep.
right? Thousands of whole Bitcoins, and people still think that okay,
Wow.
this is it's insane because he was here, he was around for a very long time, right?
Yep.
People think that okay, yeah, this thing is a scam. These people are trying to scam us. This is a Ponzi scheme, all that stuff, and it's gonna. I mean, it's natural to think that, but I think the main point here is that I think we know about something and we're trying to help people to look at it, right? We're trying to push people's attention to it because there's so much just garbage. There's so much nonsense. I when I signed up for my YouTube account, of course I didn't use it yet, so there was no like algorithm. The algorithm had no idea what I wanted to see. I was flipping through shorts. Oh my god, they're all so stupid. Every
Yeah.
single one. It's just like people trying to get you to uh oh live chat. Oh, people trying to get you to just pay attention to garbage, right? That's it, right? And I was looking at it. I was scrolling through. I scrolled through for like 10 minutes. Every single one. There's no education. There's, I think the most educative one was, oh, if you get hit by a grenade or if a grenade blows up around you, how do you survive? That was like the most educational one, but it doesn't even apply, right? But that's the thing. I feel like there's so much just bullshit to get through that if you don't put in the time, you won't get it. Right? That's one of the things. Most people are not they don't have the time. It's not that they don't want to. They don't have the time, right? They're working 3 jobs. They're trying to make sure they don't go homeless. They're trying to make sure that their children are fed, right? That's the goal for most people, right? Most people aren't trying to focus on um, getting rid of inflation or taking advantage of inflation. They don't even know what inflation is, right? They
They
don't even know
don't.
it exists because we didn't get taught this in school. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're the only thing you can do is accumulate, teach other people, and see, just open your mind, right? That's all it is. Once you open your mind, I feel like it opens your life up to a lot more opportunities. I think Bitcoin is one of those opportunities.
You know, I think you're so spot on. I want to throw a video at you. I was downloading these. I've been searching TikTok lately, just talking about people that can't afford things, right? Like how bad is life getting for most people? And I want to throw
Mm.
some of these videos at you because I think these are the people that I just don't think have any clue why this is happening. They think life's not fair, and it's so funny. We'll check this out.
I told myself I would never cry on the internet because I think that's so lame. But I just got our rent renewal thing for our apartment complex, and it's going up by $300 a month. $300 for a 1-bedroom apartment that is not updated in any sort of way. And our complex doesn't even have like nice amenities. Like we have a tiny pool and a tennis court. Like this is not a luxury apartment complex. We already pay with all the fees and everything included $2,000 a month, and now we're going to be paying $2,300 a month for this tiny apartment. And that's just so frustrating. I don't understand how people can live in this world anymore, and I just don't want to move again because that's so much work and more money, and it's stressful trying to find another place, and it's just so annoying. And now I feel like I need to get a new job, and I just got this job and I like it, but it's not paying me nearly what I need. And so now I'm gonna have to go through applying to jobs again, which I did for like a whole year plus until I found this job. So I'm gonna have to go through all of that again. It's just not fair.
What you think?
Yeah, that's really sad, man. I feel like, you see, that's one situation, and she looked young. She looked like she was what, Gen Z,
Yeah, probably. I would
right?
almost guarantee it. Yep.
Her landlord is probably somebody who's been around for 20, 30 years, right? Who owns properties for 20, 30. Even she said the property hasn't been updated,
Yeah.
right? It's the same thing, and you're paying more for it.
Mhm.
Once people, the
That's
reason why
funny.
you're paying more for it is because the value of the money that you're paying for it is worthless. It's not the landlord's fault. It's not the it's not the it's not the fault of corporations or grocery stores for increasing how much they charge us for groceries, right? It's no matter how no matter how they try to twist it, no matter how they try to change it, it's because the supply of money keeps going up. There's less of an incentive for people to actually work. More of an incentive to just, let's say, think about how many, there was a I don't know, you seem like a South Park kind of guy. Do you watch South Park, Ryan?
Dude, fifth grade, I had a South Park T-shirt. My mom got it for me
Oh,
for
okay.
Christmas. That was like one of the first episodes. I loved South Park. I used to anyways when I was younger, but
Okay,
yeah.
it's awesome. There's a new episode where they were kind of making fun of people who say, "Oh, tax the rich, tax the billionaires." But they were saying how we're giving them so much power, right? People, think about it. All these companies who, like, she probably works at a company. Nothing against her, but she probably works at one of these companies that are owned by a billionaire. What do you think the likelihood of that is? Pretty
Oh,
high,
very high. Oh yeah. Now.
right? So if you think about it, if these billionaires have the ability to keep paying us low wages, why wouldn't they?
100%. Why wouldn't they?
Right? If we're already like, okay, so you're working at this company because you don't want to take a risk with starting your own business. You're giving them even more power. You're giving them more power over yourself. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work a job. A 9 to 5 is necessary. Not saying that at all. I don't want anybody to get offended by that. A 9 to 5 is mandatory. I know people will get offended. That's why I have to say it, right? But at the end of the day, your 9 to 5 will not retire you, right? Your 9 to 5 is going to be just enough to keep you sustained. You need to do something on the side. You have to. Instead of going out every night, start something, work on something, even an hour a night. I'm not saying you don't entertain yourself. You don't go out. Their balance is key, right? But the thing is that you need to work on something else as well. You can't. The more people who don't start businesses, the more power these billionaires have to give us shittier and shittier wages, right? And the more people leave that system, more people start doing their own thing. I think that's what TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all these companies, I think that's what they're going to do, right? They're going to take away workers from the legacy financial system. They're going to take away workers from, let's say, not legacy financial system, from the from the S&P 500, McDonald's, Walmart, all these labor companies. They're going to take workers away from there. They're going to show them that, hey, you could work on here. If you're consistent, you post regularly, you can make $1,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month, right? So why would you work a job? I mean, I know a lot of people say, oh, Gen Z is lazy. They don't want to do anything. But I mean, if you grew up with people who are making a few $100s, a few $1,000s every week from just posting videos, why would you put your body, your life at risk? Right. So I mean, I think that's the main thing here. Prices are going to keep going up. Prices
Yeah.
that I guarantee you, that girl, if she doesn't learn about Bitcoin, she's going to make another video 5, 10 years from now.
Mhm.
Oh, since my last update, rent tripled, right?
Yep.
It's gonna
Gonna happen.
as more money is printed, the people who are using that money to sustain their lifestyles are gonna keep getting screwed. They're gonna keep getting screwed, and that's the message that I think Bitcoiners, just connecting it to what I was saying before. That's the message that Bitcoiners want to get across, right? If there's an unlimited amount of money that can go into Bitcoin, and you have to realize that most billionaires have no idea. They don't care because the price isn't high enough, right? They know that if they bought $1 billion worth, the price is going to shoot up. So to them, it's like, why would I buy this thing? Why would I need to take a risk on this thing? But that's
Yeah.
where the opportunity comes from, right? The opportunity comes from the people who don't have $1 billion can pay attention to this thing because it's small enough. It's small enough for them to be early. And over the next, like right now, it's worth $1.3 trillion, $1.4 trillion, whatever it is. Eventually, it'll be worth $10 trillion. How many billionaires do you think will be paying attention at that point? Eventually, it'll flip gold. How many billionaires do you think will be paying attention at that point? Maybe at that point, those billionaires will be trillionaires because of inflation, right? But
Yep.
eventually, it'll be $100 trillion. Eventually, it'll take over everything, right? So even for her case, I know I keep rambling, but
No,
for her,
do you, bro? That's why I brought you on, man.
oh, perfect. Even in her case, for example, the reason why she's renting, why? Okay, so do you? I don't want to put you on the spot here, but why do you think she's renting? Why? Like, why? What do you think the effect? What do you think the domino effect that caused that to happen was? Have you thought of this?
Probably high interest rates, the inability to actually save income and put a down payment on a house. So then she was kind of priced out
Yes.
of the opportunity to ever actually buy a house, maybe. Top of the market. I don't know. Am I on the right track?
I like to think of it the opposite way.
What you got?
It was because interest rates were low, right? Because what people did was they saw interest rates were low, so they can't keep their money in a bank account. Now they have to buy some. They can buy something, right?
I see
Now
what
they
you're
can buy
saying.
real estate. They need this thing to maintain the value of their wealth because if they leave it in a bank account, interest rates are low. They're not getting anything.
So that
right?
forced all that money out into the market.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So, and if you think about it,
That's why they
mortgages,
created the reverse repo to try to pull that money back into the market. And that's
Yeah.
how our Fed owes 140 something $1 billion.
there you go. It connects all the dots, right? I think most people
Oh,
can't
shit.
connect those dots. Even me, I'm learning, even on this podcast, I'm learning just from talking. I'm trying to connect, I'm kind of connecting the dots.
Yup.
I think that's one of the great things about podcasts. But I mean, if you think about it, mortgages were a way to give people low interest rate loans. Those mortgages were for specific people, right? I don't know if you've covered redlining in this podcast before.
No.
That was
go
one
ahead.
of the things that was huge, right? Back in the 30s when there was something called the New Deal, something like that in the 1930s, because they wanted to fight, they wanted to reverse the Great Depression. So they wanted to be able to print more money, give people more ability to buy things.
Mhm.
That it was just part of it, right? But what they did was they redlined certain areas. So it just happened to be that those areas were mostly minorities, mostly
Yeah.
Black people. But what they did was those redlined areas couldn't borrow against their houses. They couldn't get insurance. They couldn't get mortgages. That compounds over time, right? While the other people, everybody in other areas, were able to get cheap loans. They were able to get, borrow against the equity of their house. They were able to
Mhm.
educate their children, right? So all this stuff, it compounds over time, right? And for example, her, at this point, it's not redlining, it's discriminatory by age, right? So if you think about it, she's probably in her 20s. She's probably going to be working half her life to pay rent, to
Mhm.
sustain this person before her, the person who owns the house. She's going to be working half her life to sustain their lifestyle. Right. So when people
Yeah.
think, oh, other people's money, it's all so corrupt. When people think, oh, I'm just using other people's money to buy my house, right? You see, if you
Mhm.
if you go on Twitter right now and you search other people's money, I guarantee you're going to see thousands of posts. But whose money is that? That's the money of the person in that video, right?
Mhm.
Her money is being devalued. All that money is being put towards real estate. It's being put towards just random assets.
Mhm.
Not really, but it's going towards that, and she's getting screwed because she's not getting she's not getting an interest rate on her savings. She's taking a risk. She's lending that money to the bank. The bank isn't paying her for the risk she's taking, right?
Yup.
So the system is completely broken. I think what Bitcoin does, it just completely reverses all of it. It's a shock, right? It's a complete
Yup.
shock. I think there's going to be banks that go bankrupt over the next 10, 15 years,
I
right?
agree.
So many people are going to take their money out of the banking system. No more
Yep.
money is going to be coming into the banking system. And
They
these,
needed to create, they need in this debt-based economy, they need to loan money into existence. And the
yeah,
second that people stop going to these banks to get these loans out, the banks will start to crumble instantly, like really quick.
exactly. Right, right.
So
And when people save in Bitcoin, They don't need a mortgage to buy a house. Eventually,
Right.
let's say 20 years from now, a house, let's say you save 0.1 Bitcoin for your kid or
Mhm.
all your kids. 20 years from now, your kid's probably not going to need a mortgage to buy a house, right? Because that house is
Mhm.
going to be 0.01 Bitcoin,
Yep.
right? They can buy 10 houses with what you saved for them, right?
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Over time, people are not going to need loans. They're not going to need to borrow to buy cars. Eventually, it'll be too risky to lend out for consumer debt, right? Credit card debt, for example, one of those things that really crushes people, right? It's interest, right? Paying interest on their credit card debts. Eventually, it won't be profitable for banks to do this, right? It won't be profitable for banks to give out credit card loans because on a Bitcoin standard, if we move to a complete Bitcoin standard, if we move away from fiat currencies, you can't print Bitcoin, right? So if somebody defaults, the bank is the one that takes that loss. On the other hand, in the current system, they can lend out as much as they want. They know they'll get bailed out because they're systematically or systemically important. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Systemically important.
Yep.
They'll get bailed out, right? They
Yep.
know they can take these risks. They know they can lend out money without doing their due diligence because of how the system works, because of how the money works, right? The money is broken.
Mhm.
We need to fix that. There's a great book by Lynn Alden,
Yeah,
Broken
broken
Money.
money. I got that. Yep.
Yeah, just that term, broken money, it tells you what we're dealing with, right? It's the base layer of just everything that's broken, right? Money touches literally everything in the world. Once you see that, you can't unsee it.
Let me add to that. Let me throw another video at you. It kind of goes in line. It's not just it's our education systems that are broken, right? Because the money's broken, it incentivizes just gets bad decision making, behavior, and when there's that much money at stake, and you can easily extract somebody's money for you, teaching them how to do like the basics, like some of these degrees, like you got an art major or this or that. It's like these people graduate with these degrees, they don't even know what they're going to get a job in. They have 2 degrees, they can't get a job. This is a girl yesterday talking about going to school full time, working full time. And I don't know. You tell me what you think. I was just thinking to myself, like, imagine if that she's going to school for 19 credit hours. Imagine if she took that time and spent that time working as she's already working 4 jobs, right? And going to school for 19 credit hours. So imagine she worked 5 jobs instead of going to school and then put all of that money into Bitcoin for 4 years, where she would be versus going to school and being in all this debt and struggling and wasting the best years of your life. But you tell me what you think.
No, because fuck you, America, for making me pay, or for making me work 4 fucking jobs! 4 jobs! While I'm in college in rural fucking Tennessee and I can barely pay my own fucking rent, and I'm taking 19 credit hours on top of those 4 fucking jobs, and I still can't graduate on time, and I still can't graduate early, even though I'm taking 21 credit hours next semester! It's not fucking fair. It's not fucking fair anymore. It's never been fair, not in my lifetime. And will it ever be fair? No, because I'm a woman in America. Oh my God. I just want to live in peace, America. And I will one day. Probably somewhere fucking else. Anyways, look how cute my nails are.
What you think, my friend? It's like the feminism dream of like being like the worker girl in America and going out and getting in the real world and put your big girl pants on, go get a big girl job. And, you know, when in reality, maybe you'd have been much more happy just staying at home and being a housewife or raising a family or, you know, having kids and not dealing with this. I mean, it sucks. Men are meant to suffer. I don't think women are meant to suffer, you know? And I think that when you subject yourself to a life of working in a male environment surrounded by, you know, alpha males, that you end up just hating your life. You just end up being miserable. But what do you think about this? What led to that breakdown?
I mean, if you think about it, I don't even like to associate it with the feminism part. She's putting in her time. She's doing 4 jobs, right? I don't even know how it's possible. Maybe it's 4 part-time jobs. But so she's doing 4 jobs to pay the rent on her house or whatever, her condo. The owner of that condo probably works no jobs. Like, you can see the disconnect here. You can see that that's the thing that's not fair. It's not that you're a woman. It's not that you're a man. It's not anything like that. It's because the money is broken. We're using something that's a basic human necessity for profit. We financialized houses. Houses are money now, right? Right now, that's the part that's broken. It's not that you have to work 10 jobs to live, but most people don't realize it. Most people don't. That's the thing. Once you start looking at Bitcoin, you can't unsee it because there are so many advantages to owning Bitcoin over real estate. I mean, again, her situation, like you said, if she, instead of going to school, she bought Bitcoin. Everybody has that opportunity, right? But not everybody wants to take the risk, right? Not everybody wants to do that because most people are a little worried that, okay, what if this thing goes to zero? Your money is going to zero anyways, right? It's going to zero anyways. It's not like, but that's the thing that people don't get. They don't understand that the money is going to zero. They don't see it. I don't know if you showed this chart to your followers. Can I share my screen for a second?
Yeah, and a couple of my subscribers are already texting me. One of my good buddies, my subscriber for like since the very beginning, he wants to know if he can get a copy of that spreadsheet from you. If you have that posted anywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can send it over. No worries.
Sweet. There you go, Blue. I got you.
1 second. Wait, how do I get rid of this? I'm just trying to open up my screen here. Okay, here you go. Let's see if this works. It's basically a chart just showing. Wait, I can't. All these are asking me to turn off my. Oh, here you go. Okay, let me share my screen now.
Got you, brother. Take your time. No rush.
Share screen. Disable camera. Actually, I'll share screen with my camera on just so that it doesn't go back to what it did before.
Yeah, there you go.
Here you go. Okay, so if you look at this, in 1900.
Hold on, give me 1 second. I got to add that one to the scene, so just give me 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. Got you.
Can you see my screen?
Now I can. Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so if you look at the value of the 1900, you can see here. There's a better graphic of this. There's this one right here, which gives you a little bit more detail, but I couldn't zoom in.
Okay.
Actually, let me see if I can zoom in.
I can zoom in for you.
Oh yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
There
if you could zoom in on this, because if I open it, it just takes me to another screen that doesn't let me.
Yep.
Okay. So, 1 second. I think I was sharing the wrong screen. Okay. Wait. Okay.
I got the one with the dollar up.
I'll share this one. This one. There you go.
Okay. Give me a second. Let me make that the right size. Got you. Yep. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, so you can see here, there's some details. You can read this. The Federal Reserve Act creates a central bank with the ability to manage the country's money supply. That happened in 1913. After that, look at the value of the dollar. It's lost 95%. Right? As soon as the Federal Reserve was created, it was so the Federal Reserve was created. I'm not sure if most people know the history, but the Federal Reserve was created to counteract the panic of 1907. There was a bunch of just financial crises that happened. There was one that was really important. It was the financial panic of 1907, something like that. Oh, actually, I have the link open, which is funny enough.
Oh, there you go. Sweet.
You can see here, if you search this up and just read through it, I'm not going to go through it because it takes a really long time. Essentially, there was gambling involved, right? So what somebody did was they wanted to just take more power, and they tried to manipulate the markets in a way that they would be able to take more shares. Who was it? F. Augustine Heinz's. So you can see, you just read through this.
Yep.
Do it on your own time. It's very interesting. This was one of the reasons why the Federal Reserve started. So I actually have the link open here. I was reading through this just not too long ago. But yeah, you can see here, the Federal Reserve was created to make the financial system more stable, right? And in return, the Federal Reserve was able to create our money. They were able to print the money that we use today. While you work for your money, they're able to print it. They're able to create it with a press of a button, right? And that's why this is happening. That's why the value of your money is dropping. It's because whenever there's a problem, instead of working their way through the problem, they just print more money and they throw that money at it, right? And that'll continue to happen forever. That's not going to stop, right? People think, oh yeah, inflation's slowing down. It's not. It's still there. Inflation is still there. It's just, okay, inflation is slowing down, but inflation is never going to go away, right? You're going to, no matter what happens, you're going to see the cost of everything go up over time, right? If you look at the bottom here, $1 bought 30 Hershey's chocolate bars. Mm-hmm. Now you can buy what? Half a chocolate bar with $1. right? So
Damn.
that's
Wait,
60 times.
$1 bought 30 chocolate bars?
Yeah, you can see that right here.
Yup.
Can you see it?
Yep. Oh
Oh
yeah,
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 there you go.
absolutely. Yep.
Right at the bottom there. $1 buys 30 Hershey's chocolate bars. Today, one chocolate bar is what, $2? $1.50?
Mm-hmm.
I bought 10 rolls of toilet paper. A few days ago, I went to Costco. I saw uh, a pack of like 40 toilet paper, 40 rolls of toilet paper for $30,
Holy
right? $1 bought 10 bottles of beer. How much is a bottle of beer now? $3, $4?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
40 times. That's a 40x increase. In 1944, $1 bought 20 bottles of Coca-Cola. One bottle of Coca-Cola is what, $2 now? So it's a 40x
Yeah.
increase. It keeps going, right? One movie ticket, one drive-in movie ticket was $1. How much is that now? $15? $20?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
17 oranges in 1971. 2 boxes of crayons were bought with $1. Now a box of crayons, I don't even know what a box of crayons is. I'm assuming more than $10, right?
Yeah.
In 1997, 4 grapefruits. Now grapefruits are what, $2 a pound? That's probably one grapefruit. That's $2, right?
Yup.
It keeps going, right? You could buy for $1, you could buy a McDonald's coffee in 2020. Today, a coffee is what, $3, $4, right? And in that time, it just keeps going up, and it'll keep going up forever.
You know what too is Jeff Booth says, what's crazy about that is Jeff Booth says, like in a free market is deflationary, as a deflationary force on the economy by about 5%. And what he means by that is, like, think about that Coca-Cola factory. How many employees that at one point you had to have at a factory to keep up and make enough Coca-Cola to stay profitable, right? And support the demand. And then you think about what technology has done, where at one point you probably had 100 employees, all on full pay, all on benefits, paid vacation, salary, 401ks, pensions, the whole 9 yards. And now in that same factory, you could run it with like 5 employees, right? Because we've automated this entire process. So things have got so drastically cheaper and easier to produce that they should be able to make those Coca-Cola bottles. $1 technically should be buying you 100 bottles of Coca-Cola by now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because every year it should have got about 5% cheaper for the consumer. And then maybe the business scalps 1% off that. So maybe it's only 3%, right? Because they're always going to get more greedy. Yeah. But what that means is that these businesses could still increase their net profits by 2% every year, and things would still get 3% cheaper for the consumer. But our government has convinced an entire generation that stealing 2% of your wealth is a positive thing. Like, that's a good thing. And I think that, let me ask you this. Let me throw this video at you and see if this helps like you put together what's going on right now. These, just fiat just incentivizes these endless wars. When you have an unlimited supply of money, you have an unlimited supply of never-ending wars, and that's what I feel like we're feeling right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Completely agree. And that video looked a little old, right? It was probably in the late 1900, maybe 1960, maybe 1980, 1990.
Probably, yeah. It was probably
right?
An old one for sure. Yep.
So that was before Bitcoin existed, right? And if his speech had talked about Bitcoin, think about how people would have said, "Oh, he's talking about a Ponzi scheme," but he's giving them a solution to the Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
The legacy financial system is the Ponzi scheme, but people are going to keep telling you, "Oh yeah, Bitcoin is a Ponzi, even though it's not, right?
Yeah.
He was 100% right. When you can just throw money at problems instead of figuring out what the problem is, without figuring out what the root cause of that problem is, things will get worse. They'll keep getting worse. If you don't figure out what the root cause of the issue is, then there's no way to fix problems, right?
I couldn't agree more, my friend. I know we're going up on that hour mark, and I want to be respectful of your time. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show. Give us a big shout out. Let everybody know where they can find you, what your Twitter is. I've already given it a shout out and told everybody, but we got a lot of new people that are just joining us. So give us your best spiel, and we'll wrap it up after this, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you could go back to that link, I wanted to show people just something on the, So if you go to that free ebook, sign up for my newsletter. You sign up for my newsletter. You go to that free ebook, click that link
right here. Free ebook. Yes, sir.
Just read the book. It's free. If you don't understand Bitcoin, read it. I've tried to go through and I think it should ask you to you're already,
yeah, I'm already a subscriber. So where do I go from here?
So when you actually subscribe, your welcome email will show you that ebook. So actually, if you go to, can you go to view all at the top there?
View all.
On the top right.
Top right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. There should be a newsletter. So if you can you scroll down a little bit? Here?
Yes, sir.
Oh, this is all my posts.
Look at you. Oh, yeah, there's the Bitcoin is debasement resistant money. I like that.
There's one with the ebook. I think I just sent it to my subscribers. Can you go all the way up?
Yeah. There's search. I just search ebook.
Go to latest, or actually, yes, here. Yeah, there you go. If you go to search ebook. Oh, there you go. Sorry, I should have made it a lot easier, but I tried to.
Is this
if you click it? Yeah, that's it.
Sweet.
And then just go to download. Oh, this one's the old one. So I have a new ebook as well. I created a new one, but this one's good as well. Just click it.
Okay.
And then people can read through it. Oh, okay. I'm gonna make it a little easier. This is a little harder to do. I don't know why it's going this way, but I'm gonna make it easier. I'll just send it out. I think that'll be the easiest way to do it. But essentially, the ebook tells you about why Bitcoin will solve so many problems, right? I think that's the main thing. It'll tell you why it solves so many problems, what some of the myths are. There's also a new one that I wrote, which just tells you what Bitcoin is, right? And I think that's the thing that people are missing. Once they get it, they'll be good. Sign up for the newsletter. Once you sign up, you'll get a welcome email, and in that welcome email, there's a link. So
sweet.
That'll make it easier. So whoever's looking at this, once they sign up, they'll be able to see it. But that site is, if you go on my Twitter, it's just the link in my bio. That's it.
Yep, pinned right at the top of your Twitter, man. I greatly appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and hopefully, again, you come back and join us anytime. You got my link. You know, you just booked it again this time, so I appreciate you coming back on and joining us. And anytime you want to come back on, man, you're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. These conversations are awesome. I definitely want to come back on.
Have a blast.
I hope the audience enjoyed it too. I hope the audience found it valuable.
We appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. God bless, man.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. You too.
All right, folks. That's a wrap over here on the Ryan Matta Show. Thank you guys for sticking with us. If you guys are interested in checking out our sponsors, you can go over to mypillow.com. Use promo code Matta. It'll get you 50 to 65% off everything store-wide. If you guys are also into stacking Bitcoin, check out Bybit. Their links are down below.
Today's sponsor is Bybit. Bybit is your one-stop shop for crypto trading.
My affiliate code is 19834. I won't bore you with the promo. And if you guys are into MEX Exchange as well.
And today's sponsor is MEX Exchange. When we talk about...
And if you guys are in the USA, we got Coinbase as well. So swing over there, support us over here on the Ryan Matta Show. We greatly appreciate you. And we'll catch you guys in the same place, same time tomorrow. God bless.
Run.